Playing the signal.
Welcome back at the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with my brothers. My brothers on another to the right. Bro, Scott, you have your permission slip for being late this morning? We start at 7 here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Uh-huh.
I was here in spirit. I felt the prayer from the radio.
From the radio. That means you weren't present. So, we have to dock your pay. Dr. Bradley, what do you think about this? Dr. Bradley is in the house here to give you a checkup for a neck. If this is your student and he comes in late with his homework, is that okay?
Oh, no.
Turning in his assignments late all the time? Is that okay?
I give him a toddy. And the other side of it is that everything is weighted. You know what I mean? So out of that 100%, about
you're down to 45.
You got to show up, Doc, in order to perform.
A couple of weeks ago, the dog ate my homework. I'm stuck in Las Vegas.
The sun was in my eyes.
We all got bald heads, so we can't use that excuse that I was blinded by the light.
Right. Who love you, baby?
Exactly. We want to thank our sponsor, the Money Store. Who says money doesn't grow on trees? It does. And if you need a mortgage, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 508-345-4276. Like I said, the Money Store, they put their money where their mouth is. I like that. That's what I'm doing. They put their money where their mouth is. But also, they're, what I like about Cora specifically is that she and Sam Reiner from KR Realty is that they invest in the community. They're putting on these workshops. They're coming back into the community and trying to help. And I always tell people, when you're going through trying to get a mortgage and all that, relationships, as we were talking about, and relationships matter.
Yes,
they're important because we know it still goes on. Redlining, and I don't care how good credit you have. And I give you a personal, wife and I were looking at buying another property and whatnot. It was like, you know what? We have more than enough to do cash for it. But let's see what the bank and the things they were putting us through and they wanted us to go through. And I told them, no, we will take not only that, but we will take our money and we will find somebody else who appreciates us as a customer. Because I told them at some point, I have to say, wait a minute, this has to do with race more than anything, because we are more than secure, and for the amount that we were looking at is nowhere near our debt ratio being out of whack. I'm like, we have more in your money in your bank than we're asking to borrow, but we're saying, hey, let's use their money rather than ours.
Well, I mean, which credit does. In fact, I was ironic you're talking about this. My daughter just came in from Chicago from med school to spend a couple of days with her mom and I. I picked her up at the airport. And she gave me a whole explanation on how she's handling her money. And I was like, girl, I never knew you listened to me on this. I mean, you were young. You were like 3 or 4 years old when I talked to you about this.
They're like sponges.
Exactly. So she was giving me all her strategies and how she does it. And one thing she said to me, she said, you once told me that when I have enough money, but if my credit rating is high, I can borrow the money, use their money for a short period of time, pay them back, and it's free money for 30 days.
That's right.
And I always kept in mind, I was like, girl, you listen to that. You were no more than 3.5 years old when we had that conversation. Right. So we have to understand that the system that we're in, is it's not built for us, right, but we can make it work.
Absolutely. I mean, Rose, that's your background, finances and financial literacy. But the problem is a lot of times we perceive wealth as debt, right? That we have stuff, right, that has no value.
Yes.
Right? And this is why when we're talking about home ownership, right, even something as simple as back in the day, most families had an insurance policy. You don't really that was actually an investment, because if you had a decent one, or at least it covered the burial, because we're all gonna die.
Let me put a little caveat to that. It wasn't until actually the 1960s, until the civil rights movement came along, that black people were actually allowed to purchase policies where they could leave a significant amount of money.
Okay.
The policies that they actually sold black folks before the 1960s were just burial policies.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes. So you couldn't buy a policy that was gonna leave your family $1 million, $100,000. It was like, oh no, here's your $10,000 or $25,000.
Right.
That's it.
So and the sad part about that, the insurance company that denied you the policy, got his start, his money was derived from slavery.
Yeah, yes.
That's a sad piece.
It's very true. It is very, very true. A lot of the insurance companies were maritime insurance companies. They were insuring the ships and the cargo and the slaves. And then they were like, well, you know what? Like, since they stopped slavery, you can't import them anymore. Let's start the insurance business here.
So when you, I'm sorry, Larry.
No.
But it is so painful for me when I hear how companies are denying and corporations are denying black people's services. When you go into the archives and you start to look at, who were like Citibank, their directors were involved in insurance for slavery, or they were actually, Citibank would issue out a loan and they would use slavery in the plantation as collateral. So when the guy doesn't pay the loan, now they got the slaves in the plantation.
But this is what we talk about here, right? About not understanding history. This is why I say, because you understand all that, you do as well as myself, Pastor, is why we have a different thought process. But if you come up in an era where the only thing you don't even know about slavery, they don't talk about it, they want to edit it from the books, right? And they think all black people were Jay-Z and Beyonce and Oprah Winfrey. That somehow
slavery was a trade,
right?
You got a trade out of it,
right? Or as the governor in Florida said that it was one of the best things.
Work training program,
right. But again, like the ships were Carnival Cruise Line,
and but one of the key things that he mentioned, Dr. Bradley, was the fact that he started talking to his daughters when they were 3 or 4. Like, that's when seriously, the most formidable years of any child's life is 0 to 5. And if you want to implant anything that you want to make sure it lasts in life, do it at that age.
But see, this is the hit that I had earlier. I was there to do it. I wasn't socially engineered out of it. I have one of my older girls who's a dean at Harvard, DEI director at Harvard. I had the same conversation with her. My daughter, who's a pastor, I had the same conversation with her. My son, the same conversation. They were young kids, and I never thought that they were absorbing it. In fact, I just take them to the bank and say, "This is how it works." And they would come back to say, "Dad, you told me this." I was like, "Girl, are you out of your coconut? You could not have been listening."
No, but again, at that age, they're sponges. And you don't understand. That's the best time to educate them.
617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. You want to join us here? You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. Join this conversation.
But I will say it was easier a lot back then to raise children because you didn't have the distractions that both of you guys, everyone has in their hands these days. So the idea of, like, if you can get them alone, get them away from the phone, and actually kind of, like he says, take them to the bank every Friday when you're depositing the money and explain to them how interest works. And they're like, how credit works.
I took my youngest girl with me when she turned 18 to the voting poll. I was taking her with me when she was a child. All my kids, I took them, and then when it was time for them to vote, I was right there. I would say to the lady, "This is how you do it." So I was like, so they were like, "Dad, you have always been there for me." I said, "Hey, listen, if you want to pay me back, vote.
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward."
I like that.
I tell you what, like I said, I thank Charlie Dickinson for getting me involved in real estate because, again, my mom had a model. She worked at Polaroid. Single mom, 7 kids. She did the best she could. But I remember her telling me at a young age, I got my first summer job. She said, "Put your money in the bank," because that's what was
she knew.
Home.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that's what she knew.
It wasn't the financial. Had I just followed what she was telling me, I probably would not have been, because I got my first check. I ran to the bank with it. 2 weeks later, I went back there. I thought I was going to be able to buy me a car. I figured the interest would just be general. It was like 16 cents or something.
At least you got 16 cents. Or these days, the interest is not 0.02, 0.5%. You're not even going to get that these days.
But when we are not financially literate, we don't get that. So, in fact, my child was talking about high interest loans, savings. You know what I mean? Investing your money in certain things, and she was very particular about where her money would go. But my point is that our family, that generation before us, they were limited as it relates to literacy, education, around
financial literacy.
To that point, because my mom didn't have a home until I bought one for her, so she didn't understand about home ownership and the value and the equity, right? Because her only means of was putting the money in the bank
Yeah.
and getting a little bit of interest off of
And
that.
the bank was denying her a loan.
Right.
Because of what she looked like.
But that's why I say I thank God for Charlie Dickinson, because he had owned property and he taught me about the real estate. And I used to go with him and clean up around his property. He would pay me, and I would see people giving him money for living in his house, right? So it was that experience that got me involved in real estate, because I would have probably got an apartment, when I could afford it.
But that's what you saw.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
But I also, that's why I always tell my children, because you're just a manifestation of those who came before you.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So even your system, your body mimic. I look like my mother's brother. You know what I mean? So you're a manifestation of what came before you, but it's also those individuals who came before you who are giving you the knowledge.
Yeah.
If their knowledge is limited, your knowledge is going to be limited. But you got to go out and seek it. You got to go out and look. You just can't outsource someone else's. Outsource your education to someone else. You got to educate yourself.
Malcolm X said that. He said you cannot entrust the slave master to be educating your children.
Yeah, no. Jill, I want to pivot for a minute. Like I said, when the better politics, MAMLEO today will be having a voter registration in conjunction with MAHI, the Marcus Anthony Hall Institute, right, from 12 to 5 p.m. at MAMLEO headquarters at 61 Columbia Road. Come out. If you're not registered to vote, come out. If you're not sure whether you're registered to vote, because also people understand, if you haven't been registered, if you haven't voted in a while, you've been purged, removed is the word. Purged is the same as removed from the voter registry. So if you haven't voted in since Obama or since cannabis was on the ballot, you are no longer eligible to vote. You have to go back and re-register. They remove you from the roll. So
I don't know why they do that. They seem to keep sending you taxes every year. They don't remove you from the tax.
They don't forget to send you the tax bills. I got them. I just paid all my taxes to the city of Boston, right, on my property. But I want to talk about this past week. Like I said, and the reason, the importance of voting. Right, we have a presidential, and then even here locally, we have the state election this year for our senators and our state reps, and so the state offices are up for our election this year. But the embarrassment of the former president this past week at the Black Journalist Alliance there, right? And I was so glad to see Simone Biles, who is the Olympic gold winner gymnast, when Donald Trump said that the immigrants are coming over here taking black jobs, right? And so can you define, do you guys know what black, and I was love when she said, I love my black job, winning gold medals, right? I mean, that was so powerful a statement that Kamala, and that should be the trend. Kamala, I love my black job, being vice president of the United States, soon to be president of the United States. Dr. Bradley, I know you love your black job, being a doctorate, having a doctorate in teaching and academia, because we know what he was talking about. Entry-level job. That's the only thing when he thinks of black people.
But it's crazy. Like, if you just look at his history here, the fact that how blatantly it's documented that he is racist,
Right.
from housing to jobs to
Exactly.
the fact that he, his casinos, like he was sued because the black dealers were being like mistreated
Right.
and given the worst shifts.
But also, this whole thing, his racism goes even further. It was the birtherism with President Obama, right? And now with our Vice President Harris, right, is that she wasn't black until she's black now. She was Indian. She's always represented herself as a black woman with Indian heritage. She doesn't shy away from her culture, but she went to Howard University. It doesn't get much blacker than that. She belongs to a black sorority. Everywhere she's gone, she identifies as a black woman. So, but this goes to the mindset that he, as a white man, he can define who we are. If he says we're this and we say we're something else, that he gets the final say into who we are. I tell you, how you can tell Donald Trump is lying? Two things: when his lips are moving and his hands, right? When he's going all like this, right? Because if you guys saw that when the reporter, the black woman, there was all three black women up on the stage, very impressive, and he asked about DEI, and he said, explain it. This is someone who has no concept. When you hear him talk, it's just about breathing.
Equity and inclusion. Yes.
He said define it. And even after she did, he still didn't have a concept, because Trump is not, they said he never read his briefs that he got every day as president. He doesn't know what's going on in the world. He had said, which was President Biden and Vice President Harris got these hostages released, and he said, once I get in there, Putin will release them for me. He won't do them for anybody else. They got it done. They got it done.
But brother, this is my hit on that. Although he is the biggest idiot that I have seen sit on television. I saw that interview with the NABJ, but he still have white support.
Yeah.
He still have a large part of the Republican Party, 2/3 of it is supporting him.
Right.
He still have the support of the evangelicals.
Yeah.
You know, which actually just drives me crazy. But he still has Christian support. You know, so that's a larger, more painful, if you will, as relates to our democracy issue.
Right.
But that someone of that ilk can still get the support level that he has. I don't think he's going to win the organization.
I don't think so either.
Win the election. I think there's a movement here.
Yes.
But I still think that even with that movement, you can't not just forget the large segment of society that's supporting this.
Yes.
No, you bring a very good point because you're right that he has been nominated as the head of the Republican Party, right? That there are millions, hundreds of millions of people who say we want that type of behavior. We want that type of sentiment.
And a house divided can't stand, Larry. And so when you think about this, you have this individual who has initiated an insurrection. He's an oath-breaking insurrectionist.
A felon, convicted felon.
He's a felon. He has violated the Constitution of the United States.
So he wants to rip it up.
You know what I mean? And then he has told you through Project 2025 that if you protest, I'm going to bring out the 82nd Airborne on you.
I'm Putin.
You know what I mean? And he still get the support. He's not completely eradicated. He's not completely ostracized. He's getting the support.
Because in their mind, he's only going to do it to people that look like us.
That's my point.
And people thought that about Hitler.
Yes.
No, that's my point. So what we have to understand here is that what is driving Americans who are committed allegedly to the Constitution, to the democracy, so that they will actually support someone with all these bad checks on him.
And don't forget his mini-me vice president now, Vance.
So I think we have a bigger problem.
We do.
Because I think even when he goes away, because I think he's going to jail, Trumpism is much more deleterious and much more destructive.
But this
to our
is
society.
why, if it's not defeated in a way that is overwhelming, that it will look like, oh well, next time. Like I said, this is a trial run. The other one was a trial run. They've gotten a little bit better. The Project 2025, they're saying the quiet part out loud. So if they get back in here now, they'll feel like they will never, like Trump said to folks, you only have to vote one more time.
Exactly. That's what I said.
And I'm listening to this guy try to distance himself from Project 2025. I must say, dude, I have the project on my computer at home.
900 and something pages.
930 something chapters. 31 of those chapters was written by people who work with him. You know, or been a part of his administration.
Yes.
You know, so for him to say that he knows nothing about it.
But this is the same one who was, when it came out, he thought it was going to be popular, right? That he was taking credit for putting the justices on the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now he acts like he don't know anything. It's not as popular as he thought it was going to be.
States' rights.
He thought it was going to be very popular. That was going to be his winning call.
So what I'm saying is that although I personally feel that Trump is not going to win this thing, and I think that has improved. It has improved since Kamala Harris is a presumptive nominee. The problem of Trumpism is a larger problem for our society. We got to deal with the Trumpism attitude.
Trump is the symptom.
Well, all I will say is, like, to study history, not to repeat it, but to learn from it. The Nazis were defeated, but they're still Nazis. They're still a Nazi party in existence.
Good point.
So.
Good point.
But and even like again, one of the things that I will mention in regards to Trump, as far as like the fact that he's still running and he's trying to get the nomination and win the presidency.
Well, he's got the nomination.
The fact that he's still trying to win the presidency, like right now, it's just like he's in desperate mode, and then so that's why he's saying all those things.
Because see, most candidates, left or right, once they win their party's nomination, try to pivot somewhat to the middle.
Center, yes.
He is still running.
Yes, for just the base.
Running for the base.
Yeah.
His base is not enough to pull. There are a lot of, and then the most recent with his vice president calling women who don't have children cat women, and that people who don't have children should not have the same rights as everyone else. This is that authoritarian, because then if you don't have children, then you shouldn't be paying for taxes that provide for schools.
Yeah.
So,
but brother, I have two hits. The first thing is on your hit. Although Nazism is still here, but look how the government of Germany responded to it.
Yes.
You see
Very
what I mean?
true.
Right.
So
America's never gotten that response.
Got to that response. I mean, the government is forbidden to have a park named after Hitler. But we are erecting statues of generals who actually committed insurrection.
Right.
So that's one side. And my other hit is that America has to understand that I'm sorry, that's not what. That's another conversation. But what my other hit is that white America is completely afraid of what happened during 2008. You have another person of color. I shouldn't say all white.
No, I was going to say
not all white.
Not all white, because there's a lot of white people definitely
there are
voted.
some segments of America
who's
afraid of having another person of color in the office.
Well, okay. Again, those are the people that live in fear because
there you go.
Okay,
it's about fear.
It's about fear. Because bottom line is, it's like if the whole thing about diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you guys also did, the acronym is democracy, everyone invited. I like that. But the thing is, it's like they're afraid that, oh my gosh, like if someone else is in control, and they have this whole revenge mindset, like, oh, they're gonna take over and they're gonna make us suffer for the past sins of the country and everything like that. No, we're just gonna make things equal so that way we can actually live and breathe in this country. We're not trying to affect your level of your comfort level. We're just trying to make sure that you guys stop trying to kill us and trying to stop oppressing us.
Well, someone just sent me, just we're aware Agenda 47, which is Donald Trump. If he gets back in, he's going to try to do a lot of things by executive order. I mean, people in a lot of ways too with this are voting against their own interests. A lot of the stuff in this Project 2025 gets rid of unions, gets rid of overtime pay.
But see, Larry, so let's look at the voting against their own interests. Because if you're not aware of it's two hits. That depends on if you're aware of your interests. All right, and that depends on if you know that the person you're voting for is against the interests that you are aware of.
Right.
What I'm trying to say here is that most of us don't even know that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me say in a great point. Let me say this quickly, because what I'm thinking, and then please, is that when you think about that, a perfect example of that is Roe v. Wade. Right? There was always conversation, and a lot of people thought it would never be overturned. So even those who didn't oppose it just felt like it would always be there. So that's not even an issue, right? That they ran on getting it overturned, and like I said, like you've said many times, the dog that caught the car, right? And now that it's there, so people, I think that was a wake-up call in a lot of ways of people feeling like, oh, these things can really happen. We see them in real time. Something that has been kind of in the fabric of our lives is now gone. And just like that, because people who are unelected, people who are not accountable to anyone, as they claim, decide for the whole country.
Well, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so you want to say?
No, again, like the thing about the people voting against their own interests, it's like, and that's why they want to keep people ignorant and illiterate, is the fact that most of these people, if they knew exactly if they were voting for Donald Trump, like they're voting against themselves. Like poor white people make up the majority of people that are on welfare.
Hello.
But every time they show you a picture of someone on welfare, they pick someone that looks like us, and they're like, "Yeah, get them people off welfare." And I'm like,
"Well, immigration is that people aren't coming in from Ireland and Italy, all these other places, right? It's only people coming in from. Let's look at some that's got on the list of Project 2025 agenda. Eliminate the Department of Education. Use public funds to pay for private religious schools. What would happen to separation of church and state, right? Encourage Christian indoctrination, not education, indoctrination. We all know what that means, through public schools. Dismantle civil rights. So being treated right is civil rights, but we dismantle people's races. That's what it comes down. And
Malcolm X called them human rights, not civil rights.
Protections of all levels of government. Eliminate no-fault divorce. Now, why would you think Donald Trump would want to have a no-fault divorce? Why would you think someone who's been married 100 times would want to have a no-fault divorce, right? Ban all contraceptives. Ban African American and gender studies in all levels of education.
Why? See that? Hold that thought.
Yes.
Why would you want to ban African American, not Italian American.
Yes.
Not Asian American.
Not Jewish American.
Not Jewish American.
Yeah, but just African.
Well, not Irish, but African American.
Yeah.
Why you want to ban that?
Because that's the part where they're not so proud, right? Yeah. Tax cuts for major corporations and a 1% increase.
They shouldn't be proud of that. A lot of part of their history, but that's definitely the most blaring part of it.
Increasing taxes on the rest of us. Now, folks didn't learn from the last tax cut, and Trump came out after and said to his rich friends, "I took care of you." Right? Yeah. Who took the brunt of that? Right? Is people who own homes. Right? When they capped the taxes that you could write off, a lot of the write-offs that people were able to use, regular working middle class people, those went away. You're paying more now because of Donald Trump, and his rich friends got a nice little tax break. You know, I mean, it goes on.
Yeah, no, I believe like what the Social Security after you make like 300,000 or whatever, 400,000, it doesn't matter if you don't get taxed on the rest of it normally.
Eliminated all climate.
So literally, it's like the more money you make,
the less taxes. The more money you make, the more you keep.
Yeah, exactly.
Eliminate climate protection. Well, I was watching the news this morning, right, and they're saying there's there's rain and stuff. The water out there. We all know, if you understand science, that the water temperature is how bad a hurricane. Well, they said the water temperature where it's coming from is 92 degrees. That's way above where it should be.
But see, you see, like things that you're just reading off, Larry, is all for the community, the rich community. There's a lot of people investing in fossil fuels. That's why they don't want to move towards
solar. No, well, not even solar, but all renewable energies, from solar, wind, tidal, anything that's free and renewable.
But you have this whole infrastructure that's been producing wealth for hundreds of years around.
Do you know Nikola Tesla actually had a way to actually give people free electricity by just turning on a radio knob? But J.P. Morgan was like, "Oh, where's the meter?" There's like, "Oh, no meter," and he did this.
Well, also, people think that electric cars are something that just came out in the last 10, 15 years.
1920s.
Right, and they get eliminated
the first
because
cars were electric.
And they didn't. The reason why they didn't survive is because gas came available and they could charge you more for gas and fuel. This is all about making money.
Yes.
Look at everything you buy now, right? There's no such thing. When's the last time you bought a gallon of ice cream?
Wait, actually,
I can't eat.
Yeah. No, well, it's not.
It's not a
fake
gallon.
ice cream. No,
it's not a gallon.
No.
It's not a gallon.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what it's.
No, at Aldi's you can buy a gallon. It's a little bucket, but it's not because of all the ingredients. You know, it's like all right. There are a lot of chemicals.
But the same thing, right? Everything you buy, it's it was hot. I got the kids some Klondike bars. They almost look like a candy bar. Everything is smaller now, but it costs more.
Yeah.
Right. So the quantity,
inflation.
Right. And these companies know that, and there's no regulation of this, and they're getting away with it. They're charging you more for less.
Well, here's the crazy thing. Like, if you notice, in this country, because corporations actually rule and control our food supply, they're allowed to put stuff that are banned from other countries from being put in the food, but yet, like, it's been proven that these ingredients cause cancer, but because the Food and Drug Administration is actually just more of like a lobbying or rubber stamp for the corporations. They're not really there. It's like the salmonella outbreaks and everything like that. They take care of that, but the fact that they allow chemicals and carcinogenic products to be put into our food that other countries have banned and said, no, you should not have this in the food supply. And they kind of said, nope, these corporations kind of just like, again, even like if you study history, remember when the cigarettes were actually seen as like, they were making commercials and doctors recommended that you smoke cigarettes, and now they're like, and they had the documentation from the cigarettes company saying that this kills people, but they kept suppressing it. Oh, the science is not good. The science is not conclusive. And they fought it for years and years until now, like, all right, now you have the campaign. It's proven. The same playbook with the oil companies.
Given the Chevron decision around EPA, most of your administrations will not be able to function in the way that we have known. You know, to set guidelines. Most of your government administration won't be able to do that. What the Supreme Court is basically saying is that when there's an issue, you got to come to the court with it. You don't have to. You can't just that EPA or any other government administration just can't set rules without it being litigated. That's what the whole Chevron. That's the whole Chevron decision. You know what I mean? And so,
whoever's got the most money is gonna just make the rules. That's the golden rule now, right?
So let's go over some more of this Project 2025. Eliminate retirement age. eliminates Social Security and for the elderly and disabled, promotes capital punishment for speedy finality of such sentences, condemns single mothers while encouraging a traditional family. What is a traditional family? Only recognize transitional families by overturning Oberfeld versus Hodges in attempts to eliminate the LGBTQ community. Dismantling the FBI Homeland Security. So the list goes on. So what is a traditional family, Dr. Bradley?
You know what?
What does that encompass?
I don't know. I mean, it's what they're, it's what they're saying it is. A woman and a man with children.
Yeah, no,
but that's what they're saying.
But before the 1950s, it was a white woman and a white man.
Right, that was
you better not be mixing the races.
So you have a blended family, right?
Yes, I do.
One would say that is traditional. That would not be that would not qualify.
Yeah.
For you to even attempt to do that, right?
I have raised.
Here is someone who has been married 3 times and has numerous affairs.
And I don't even know if his wife his first wife really died.
But it doesn't apply to them. You see, that's the thing. It does not apply to certain.
So it's not retroactive.
Yes.
It does, no. And in addition to that is that one of the things that concerned me as a black man is that you want to bring out the most powerful military in the world against me if I protest for my rights. In America, and King said this, the beauty about America is you have a right to protest for rights.
Right, exactly.
So now what you're saying to me, if I protest because of my right, and by the way, you started off based on a protest, all right? If I protest for my rights, you're going to sick the most powerful military in the world on me.
Right.
You're going to call it the 82nd or 101 Airborne. You know what I mean? That should be alarming to any black person, any person, period.
Any person, yes.
Right.
Let's be alarming.
Let's go back to the Black Journalists Conference the other day when he was asked the question about releasing the folks who had been convicted. And when she said, these people have been convicted, just like he has been. Mm-hmm. They were convicted of crimes. These weren't just tourists. These weren't people who little minor misdemeanors. These were serious. These were people who assault police officers, assaulted folks for no reason other than they wanted to overthrow the government. And he's saying that he would pardon these people if he got back in the office.
Well, see, my problem with that is that I see that from multiple perspectives. And one could say that I was idiotic to do this as a young man, but I did it. I spent 3 of my obligated 6 years to this country in the military, in the U.S. Army, and another 3 was inactive, a reserve, but ready to be called up immediately because of my MOS and my job that I had in the military. Call up immediately for a war. So 6 of my years of my life I gave, and I was ready to give my life for this country. It pained me immensely to sit in my office, in my basement, and watch on television the Confederate flag. Now, this is a man from Georgia, you know what I mean, been paraded through the Capitol. A capital that I was willing to fight to die for. I mean, one may say, shame on you, but that's how I saw it. All right, and I got my benefits for that. But let me tell you something. I cannot support anyone, even if it was Kamala Harris.
Right.
I can't support someone who's going to try to destroy the democracy because they lost a legitimate election.
Exactly.
And they refuse to. We only have one president at a time. They refuse to accept the fact that they lost.
But
he's a sore loser.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
I just can't support him.
And now he's losing his mind because he has a formidable opponent. And I applaud President Biden
Amen.
for doing what's right for the country, right? Because he sees that it clearly was the right decision, right? Yeah. Because her campaign has raised over $310 million. Right, in a month alone. Yeah. All of this is getting under Donald Trump. This is worse than him losing the election because he's now being outdone by a black woman.
But brother, don't lose focus.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Don't lose the sight of the fact that Donald Trump still has the Republican Party. Trumpism is still rampant and still very vital.
Even his vice president,
Party.
before he got the prize, stated the truth, right? That Donald Trump was our modern day Hitler, right? I mean, this is why he has no authenticity. This is why I think probably the best thing is having him as his vice
But
president.
I will say this: there is a part of the Republican Party that still refuse to vote for Trump.
Right. There's still,
there's still like the Nikki people that were like,
Nikki Haley
I'll vote for Nikki Haley and
yeah.
what have you. And you still have like the Mitt Romneys and the Elizabeth Cheneys that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that are still saying, although we're Republicans, we're not Trump. We're
right.
not Trump.
Even his former vice president, historic, never had a former vice president not supporting him.
Well, that's why I say that I think he's going to lose this.
Yeah.
Is because there's notice I said 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say the whole
right,
party.
yeah.
Right.
You know, so you have which constitutes a lot of people that are actually saying, I'm not going to vote for this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you and I said this earlier in a previous broadcast, was that Trump should be concerned when he's actually running, when he was running for the nomination,
and
he had a piece
20-30% of the
he was losing 20-30% of the vote, voting for someone who was not even there,
right.
who had actually bowed out.
Right.
That says to me there's a segment of your party saying we're not going to vote for you.
Right.
We'll go for a third party. We'll go, even if they go for a third party, but a fraction of them go for the Democratic second party nominee. They have, you have lost,
right?
You know, because this is a general election.
But
so
see, as you said, you guys have said, and I think you said it several times. Trump is not trying to win by addition; he's trying to win by subtraction. All this suppression, because he knows he cannot pick up those votes.
Yeah.
But the way he can try to win is to keep
People
us from voting, keep people who were voting for the other side. If they stay home, like a lot of them were not going to vote for Biden. That's why he wanted to debate Biden, because it looked good for him to be up there debating someone who looked like they didn't have all their faculty. Now he is the old man standing up there with this bright,
educated, a wonderful
black woman,
strong woman.
Not. He said he doesn't get to identify who she is, just black woman, right? A prosecutor, and she would prosecute the case. That's what Trump. Every black woman, Connie Willis down in Georgia, the Attorney General in New York, the Alvin Braggs in New York. He feels like black people don't have a right to hold him accountable. Anyone, but particularly black people, in the language, like he always comes in. But you know what? I noticed that I think people, even some of they're tired of this grief. They're tired of it. He talks about no issues whatsoever when he's out there. It's just grievances and insults, right? And even the other day with the black reporter, he's like, well, you start off with a nasty. See, that stuff is so tired during Hillary, because Hillary, let's face it, was not a likable person. A lot of people they didn't go out to vote for Trump. They just didn't vote because they didn't want to vote for her. He's now facing a formidable opponent, but also all of that stuff is old. He's still playing that old, tired, racist playbook. The birther. Oh, she's not black. He wasn't black. He didn't have birth. Now she's not black. She just became
she's not
black.
Black enough, yes.
No, she just became black.
Yeah.
Well, brother, listen. You know, the fact of the matter here is that, well, he just turned orange. I mean, he was not white. He's orange. You know what I mean? So we're going to start talking about colors. We can just talk about colors. You know what I mean? But that's not really the real hit. You know, there's still people of color support him.
Well,
you know what I mean? Because, you know, he gravitates towards, he has captured that church or that religious segment, you know, that
crazy,
Christian segment that feel like, you know, this is the traditional family, a man and a woman.
Okay.
Oh, hold up. I mean, faith. I mean, he said things like, you know, you don't have to vote Christians. I love my Christian. I'm a Christian man. Can hold the Bible upside down.
Yeah.
He can hold the Bible correctly. But he has captured that Christian segment and that evangelical support.
No, but some people actually, like right now, are like taken aback because of some of the things that he's been saying.
Let's unpack that for a second, because he's saying that people who don't have children should not have as much say, right? Mm-hmm. So that means his friend Lindsey Graham, who has no children, should not be a senator, should not be voting on laws and helping get laws. Tim Scott, who was one of the people he was considering for the vice president, right, should not be in the Senate as well, because he has no children. He's not married. Neither one of them are married. So they're not traditional families according to them. So how are they able to be in this party if you got people in your party who don't fit the bill, right? And even J.D. Vance, his vice president pick, you see the backlash he get because he's married to an Indian woman, right? That his kids have Indian sounding names. Mm-hmm. They find that offensive, that he picked someone like that. They don't get it. Like I said, they think that somehow they're spared from what want to unleash on others, and now the chickens have come home to roost.
Yeah. Well, it will see. We will see, because there's still a segment of people who do not want a female to run this country.
I think you're right, but I think that there's something, and I could be wrong. There's something different than when Hillary was running.
Yeah.
Than we see right now.
Well, there's also the fact that Roe versus Wade has been overturned.
Right.
I can tell you what's different. I think there's two hits I have with it. The first one, people know who Donald Trump is.
Yep.
Yes.
They didn't know him the second time. The first time.
Right.
All right. So that's the first hit. My second hit is that you have a lot of women.
Yeah.
A lot of women who are angry.
Yeah.
That the government is going to say to them on one side of the ledger that you're free.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the ledger that when you're violated, you're not free.
Right.
I tell you what to do. I tell you when to have the child. I tell you. You know what I mean? What you can and cannot do with your body, with your breath.
Absolutely. And let me tell you how crazy it is. One woman had a miscarriage in the bathroom in the fetus from the toilet. They wanted to charge her with abuse of a corpse.
Yeah.
This is how crazy people are saying. Right. I know people are like, wait a minute, this is going too far. Yeah. This is going too far. People have medical reasons why abortions. It's not because somebody went out, had a good time, and doesn't want the child.
I think that's that situation is equivalent to the dog that caught the car and realized I can't stop it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? A Republican wanted this, and now they have it. And I think it's going to kill them. I think it's going to really beat them up in the suburban community where you have educated women. And men.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I can't really look at my granddaughter or my sisters or my child and say who are female that I can't. I love you when I support something like that.
But here's the thing too, and to that point, having women. So what happens if something unthinkable, right? There's some rape or that your loved one should have to carry that child if they don't want to. That someone who violated them.
Yes.
But I think
the 10-year-old in Ohio.
Yeah, I think it's important.
It's crazy.
And I know it's important for me to say this as a man of Christ, is that I respect all life.
Absolutely.
I have had debates with my wife in my home because she want me to kill the mosquito, and I'm like, baby, that's God's creature. I don't care about that.
I'm with your wife.
She's like, I don't care about that. You get rid of
I'm with your wife on that one.
But my point here is that I have a respect for life.
Yeah.
But I also feel that the decision that the female will make about her reproductive power,
her family and her doctor,
it's a family and her doctor. It's not government.
Yes.
Government should not play a role in that. It should not be the doctor's office.
The irony and the hypocrisy, gentlemen, is the Republicans are always the ones saying that government should be out of people's lives.
Yeah, we want smaller government and everything, but yet they're the ones that want to be involved.
You want to overreach and tell people what they can read.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's been everything they're saying is coming back. Like now there are cat women for Harris, white men for Harris. I mean, all this stuff that they were doing, people are now taking it and they're using it. I mean, even the other day when she addressed it, she didn't talk. We probably spent more time talking about it than she did, right? Where she basically went over it. Here we go again, and she's doing it the right way.
Yeah, but I think, and I do agree with you for that particular moment.
Right.
She's doing it the right way, not to put a lot of energy into it.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that America not lose sight of the fact that 2/3 of one of his major parties is indoctrinated into Trumpism.
But this is
into hatred.
It's just on full display, gentlemen. It's been that way for the longest time. They just found someone who was going out there because most other Republicans might have felt, a lot of them may have felt that way, but they knew it wasn't popular to go out there. Now he grabbed onto something, and that's why his vice president wants to be the mini-me of Donald Trump, because this is the same person. They go back and show all the clips of him talking about what horror. Same thing with Marco Rubio, and Lindsey Graham, and all of them. Mitch McConnell.
And I think they all should be brought up on charges. Like literally, it's like for supporting the insurrection, for denying it, and the fact that they're supposed to be the law and order party. Like, what happened to being the law and order party and supporting the police officers, the Capitol Police? They're not supporting them. They're supporting the insurrectionists.
A quick convicted felon.
Yeah.
A convicted felon.
And what the election comes down to is the fact that you do have a convicted felon against the prosecutor. The prosecutor. Exactly. The prosecutor's going to prosecute that
and send him back. A better optic of.
I think we have problems, Doc. I'm be honest. I think this country, although I don't see Donald Trump winning this, I think we still have some serious issues socially in this country.
Yes.
But I think Donald Trump just brought it to highlight what has been out there, right?
There you go.
But it's not like this is something new. You know, he didn't manifest this. This has been there. He just gave permission to a lot of these people, because a lot of these same people would not have said that, but they're like, oh, it's okay to now to call out people. It's okay to attack women.
Yeah, I think that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that we just have a Supreme Court that said that he has immunity.
Yes.
Right.
That anyone who holds the
we
office,
have a kings, as you said.
they have placed a cloak of a king on this individual who's sitting in that seat.
Well, to give Biden credit, like the fact that he's leaving and he wants to actually overturn that and make it a law that.
But he can't.
No, he won't, and right now he won't be able to. But the fact that he made
He'll
that
never
part,
get 60 senators, because that's what it's going to
well,
take.
actually, is it going to take 2/3 of the states to actually change the Constitution?
yeah.
I don't know if this is a constitutional issue.
No. Actually, to make
You have to ratify.
They want to add an amendment called the king.
For the presidency, but I mean for the courts, they don't have to have an amendment.
No.
Right.
They can change the
structure,
composition of the Supreme Court,
putting rules on them,
which I agree with. By the way,
absolutely,
I agree with that. But he also wanted, when you talk about adding an amendment,
right,
you have to have 2/3 of the states to say, yeah, we're going to do this.
But you know something though, and I could be a little naive in this, gentlemen. I think that this country, seeing this, people are saying, wait a minute, we don't. That's the reason why we don't want a king in this country. Yeah. I think that the vast majority of people, it might be tougher in some of these southern states, but I think most people would agree that no one should be above the law.
Yeah, but the other side of it, Larry, is that I think that was okay as long as the Oval Office was occupied by white men.
Right.
I think Obama, we are still in the backlash.
Yes.
Of the white backlash.
We are.
Of what happened with Obama.
But what I think people are starting to see, it's not just designated to black people. It's women's rights, the Roe v. Wade. So I think they're seeing that.
Okay.
That it starts with I want to, but now this isn't just going. If this guy has the rights to, with a Project 2025. This isn't just going to affect black people. White people work and get overtime. So a lot of these things that they're proposing, I think there's a backlash saying, wait a minute, I thought it was just going to be those people affected by this.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember the American, what's socialist, Eugene Debs?
Nah.
He ran for president from prison during the time of Woodrow Wilson, but he ran as a democratic socialist, and that was a thing. He was trying to literally unify the black and white people to vote for their interests, but again, racism kind of like put a wedge into that, and that didn't come to fruition. But again, like the people have been trying to get together, and the powers that be have made sure that to keep us separated.
This is why folks have to go. If you aren't registered, if you're in the city of Boston,
that's the whole purpose of it.
MAMLEO is having a voter registration from
Yes.
noon to 5 p.m. at their MAMLEO headquarters in conjunction with the Marcus Anthony Hall Institute, getting folks registered to vote. I mean, we're going to be doing that. Collaborations. We're going to be out there. We're going to continue with it on this broadcast. This should scare the bejesus out of folks. But I think, too, Dr. Bradley, is that younger people grew up in a different era, gentlemen. So we're seeing like young people now becoming enthusiastic with Kamala Harris being at the top of the ticket. It's different than a lot of the young people that came up and all they saw was the Trump era. I think they're saying we're tired of this. It's the younger people. So these old folks like Lindsey Graham and all them, they're still buying into that. They're only about themselves because. And that's the beauty of today with the technology. You can go back and see their real thoughts about this individual. So they don't have any credibility. What they have is hypocrisy. Lindsey Graham, I mean, you go back and play what they said about Trump was the truth. He's a charlatan and all. Even his vice president.
Yeah, he is. He is. But again, I go back to the pack, and that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I do not support him.
Yeah.
I will not support him, and I gave my reasons why, among other reasons. What I saw on January the 6th. But I'm still concerned that there's a large component, a large segment of society that supports this.
Well, I think what says that what you're saying is so powerful, Dr. Bradley, is that this isn't even a race for this in this country. It's come down to 6 or 7 states that are going to decide this election. That just shows how polarized this country is, right? That you're voting here in Massachusetts doesn't really mean anything. It's only a few states that are not as the balance is so close, right?
And the crazy thing is, it's like those states are they're usually like very low populations, very low minority representation. So, and again, they
and that's changed. Like Georgia is a state where a lot of people from black people moved to because it was cheaper for them to live in, and so the population there. That's why they want to make it difficult
to register to vote.
Exactly in these states. So that's Dr. Bradley's home state, Georgia.
Yeah, I'm from Augusta,
Georgia on my mind.
But I can tell you, what really strikes me as peculiar is that voting is the cornerstone of democracy.
Yeah.
One of the cornerstones, but yet.
We don't use peculiar, but we use weird.
Okay, but yet, there are people who are actively trying to stop you from actually voting. If it was,
let me just jump and interrupt. Stop certain people.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But if it was not important, why would they start? Why would they try to stop these certain people? You see, and so I bring this up to say that I really applaud what MAMLEO is doing, and I applaud your brother for actually putting it in the minds of the president. And whatever way I can support it, I will support it. But I think we have to also make sure when we have those individuals writing out, filling out the form, the importance of actually showing up and pulling the lever.
And this is where it's going to take the follow up and the effort, right? And also, like I said, they have called souls to the polls, where we're going to have to get people. I think because Kamala Harris being the first black woman at the head of the ticket, like with President Obama, like
it's going to electrify people.
People are going to be out there in here in Massachusetts, because they were saying that Massachusetts registered voters increased by like 100,000 people in Massachusetts registered to vote after she got
really?
It was on CNN, and it was showing with states where there's been a substantial increase in people registering to vote, right?
But that's only one half of it, though. That's my point.
People.
That's only one half of it,
right?
The other half is showing. You made a comment to me when you were doing the poll. I think you said you were at Morning Star, and you sat there for 8 hours, and you can count, on two hands, or how many people showed up.
So more people in the working than voting.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So, and that is a sad commentary. And that, you may have a lot of those individuals saying, I registered and I feel good about registered, but did you vote though?
Right. I think, to your point, I think there's an enthusiasm now, and it's sadly we don't have it every time. To your point, right? It's like when cannabis was on the ballot, right? I got there that morning, people were already lined up outside the door waiting because there was something that they wanted, and it should be that every time. When President Obama, there was that enthusiasm. That was the only other time that I saw people waiting when I came there. Usually when you come to election, the only people might be waiting for you are the poll workers, right?
But the thing is that in an election, there's something that you want, and that's your rights. You want those rights.
But you're looking at it from a lens of, like I said, of your history, of your responsibility, of your obligation of doing that, and other people see it as a sport. And that's the sad part, right? Because we have an election every year. Every year. And every year, those rights are in jeopardy. That's right.
You know what I mean? Every year,
to your point, and I'm is that I tell you, the state elections are more important than the national elections.
Yes.
Because this is where a lot of these laws have been changed and taking people's rights is at the state level.
Which was I tell my students all the time. the chances of interacting with a federal agent is much, much less than your chances of interacting with a police officer.
That's right.
Because the police officer, you got a level one you with.
Right.
He's in your neighborhood.
Right.
You're gonna see this individual all the time.
Right.
So and that's the same thing with voting.
So, folks, before we close, again, MAMLEO is holding a voter registration today at MAMLEO headquarters at 61 Columbia Road from noon to 5 p.m. in conjunction with MAHI, the Marcus Anthony Hall Institute. Come out if you're not registered. If you're not sure, come out and register the vote.
That's the price of democracy. Exactly. Freedom isn't free. Exactly. Come out there, get registered, get vote, get active, and stay engaged. That's the problem. People get there and then they forget about it. No,
Pastor Hobbs, thank you, sir. Dr. Bradley,
be blessed.
Never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog. Hustle real hard. I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'? You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst, and the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard.
Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle
So
real
if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard.